It may have been Endpoint's pick, but Heroic denied them any room to move on train. A ticket straight to the series advantage for the Danes as it falls off the track for Endpoint. A Maniac, it looks like Heroic are keen to be bouncing straight back after that close loss against Astralis yesterday, and mirroring a similar performance to what they had on this map against their Danish counterparts.
Absolutely, and now you can understand why we were not so sure about that veto. When you're Endpoint, you pick it into Train versus Heroic, knowing you're gonna start on your T side, and the scoreline for Heroic, once again the same, 12-3, very dominant on their CT side, very proactive, the double AWP once more making waves. The gambles, not so gambly, as Kaden was talking about in the interview, sometimes about reading the opponent, knowing what to do and when to do it, and it was just bis repetita. I mean, Heroic right now look very solid on their CT side.
Yeah, I want to pick up on that CT side a little bit more with you, Potter, because we saw Launders talking about it during the game, that calculated aggression. Again, maybe not so much as we saw yesterday against Astralis, but still, it's really impressive for them to have that full-on confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And calculated is definitely the key word there, Freya. I mean, you just saw it, right? Borup had complete control of that Brown Hall's control so early on. And with Testis always in Pop Dog, always in ladder room, that just constricted all of Endpoint's opportunities and options. So you saw that it slowed them down a lot, immensely actually. And they had to slowly try to retake that Brown Hall, never knew exactly where Borup was going to be. So this T side, it was a very slow start for Endpoint coming through.
Yeah, and we talk about that aggressive CT side from Heroic, but switching over onto their T side, Maniac, you have a particular round that you want to be breaking down. What was going on for Heroic there?
Yeah, I just wanted to show the viewers the second gun round that was done by Heroic and kind of show them how you can go through a very standard round on Train. So you have Nico doing some noise towards the B-bomb side. There you have it here, and now I'm gonna pause the round right here. That's the first victory for Heroic in that round. You forced Crucial to play on the B-bomb side, reach Surreal, and then you have your two death squad, which is namely Cadian and Stam towards Ivy, and then you have Nico and Tiz towards the Pop Dog, and they together will grant themselves 2v1s across the board. We see Staven finding the kill onto Mighty Max, and then his tease is here towards Robin. From that point on, for Heroic, they know they have the full control of the round. They're gonna wait about 20 seconds just to make sure that Endpoint are really uncomfortable, not exactly knowing what to do. We see Staven here staying alive for as long as he can, and finally regrouping here, Cadian joining the troop. They're gonna go outside. The Pins move is on. Thesis gets the kill onto Surreal. It's poor Flames alone. He's gonna do his best to fight back. He's gonna get that double kill, quite nice from the rifle, but it's not going to be enough. At the end of the day, it's Crucial in a 1 versus 3. So this round, as far as I'm concerned, it kind of shows that Heroic on their T side, they understood they were one step ahead. They did not need to do anything super fancy, anything creative. They just needed to force Endpoint into an uncomfortable position, take the whole control of the map, let them do mistakes, and you know what, take them one by one.
Yeah, and just looking across the kill distribution for the Heroic side, Staven ending on 22 kills, Borup at the bottom on 17. So everybody's stepping up when they need to on this squad. I do want to look over to the Endpoint side of life though, Potter. We were speaking about Flamesy before the game, obviously the newest member of this Endpoint squad. He actually ended up topping the scoreboard throughout the entire server, 23 kills, 107 ADR. So actually, although, there may not be too many positives to come at this game from Endpoint, Flamesy being able to step up and actually integrate themselves into the team is probably one of them.
Not too shabby, not too shabby. I mean, to be honest, those stats are pretty incredible. As you mentioned, Freya, they were losing and he had 7+ multi-kill rounds. So certainly Flames, he started warming up quite a bit. It's the T side of things that I'm worried about for these Endpoint guys, especially moving on to this Vertigo. We mentioned it in the pregame. Vertigo versus G2. The CT side was great. Surreal over towards that B. Fantastic defenses with Flames helping him out with the perfect flashbangs, controlling that mid area. But the T side was uninspired. If it's kind of replicated with this Train, moving on to this Vertigo, they've got to be able to establish some sort of map control, especially towards that A ramp. That's where we're going to be seeing Flames try to get a pick, try to gain that ramp control. If he's able to be successful early on and establish that default, then he's going to make Heroic go through more resources to try to re-aggress in that area. So definitely Endpoint need a faster, more decisive start going onto this Vertigo.
Yeah, speaking of Vertigo Maniac, where do you think the main focus point should be for this Endpoint squad? Of course, as Christine was saying, we saw them playing on it yesterday. Not a great T side from them. Anything that they should be really focusing on going into this to be hoping to take it to 3 maps?
Yeah, absolutely. And Christine is dead on the money. You have that duo Flames and Surreal. They did a great job on the B-bomb side, so I'm going to keep my eye on them. Also, Endpoint, the games I've watched from them, they were very proactive on the CT side. They did not shy, or they were not worried about pushing middle together to kind of reclaim control of that map. So I hope they're going to do it again. And there is a name that we haven't really mentioned, but Crucial. He needs to step up. I mean, I think it was Maui Snake who told me that Endpoint, they kind of live or die by Crucial's performance. On train, he really wasn't anywhere to be found, only 11 kills. You talk about how they can find the opening on the T side. Well, an AWP, typically you'll see the Kenny SS, the Zayu waiting A ramp, punishing any kind of aggression coming in from the CT side. Crucial needs to step up. He had one bad map, that's okay, but he needs to give his IGL some openings or even some rounds.
Well, this really is the last chance saloon for Endpoint. Only Vertigo stands in their way for taking it to a 3rd tier. Scrawny and Launders will be back with the action after this.
Welcome back, everybody. One step closer, Mohan. One step closer to the elimination, perhaps, for Endpoint. I mean, Endpoint, they put up a great fight yesterday versus G2. They genuinely had footing across both of those maps in the series, or 3 maps, actually. And now we find ourselves here on Vertigo. I think there's maybe a chance for Endpoint, but I think Mathieu said it best. We really need to see something from Crucial, and he's dead on. Crucial will be floating around that A site. He will be working that ramp from both directions. And hopefully, as he said, it was just one bad map, because we need to see something from Endpoint. They know that Flame Z's come up to play. We know that Mighty Max isn't far behind him, but the pistol's underway. Heroic have head towards A already. Eesh, where they get the easy opening. Robin goes in for the peek and he dies. Flame Z off of the short shelf can bring it back slightly. And luckily for Endpoint, they've got numbers here on A. But another duel picked up by Heroic. It's now crucial to try and make the difference, but Stown, I mean, man of the hour. 3 kills already here in the first round of Vertigo. And while he does have that bomb, he has doubled back. It is the B site that is open for the taking, and Heroic know it.
Oh, Nico knows exactly what's about to happen. That's such an easy kill for him. And this map is so much about it's almost as if you're applying pressure with the intention of going A, but having the lurk just in case who ends up being important a lot of the time. So they'll have someone come out mid or someone late B, because the rotations will come through. Stown getting an opening kill is what's going to drag the rotation after a first player sees 3 down the A ramp. It's really hard not to bite on if you're a CT, and that's why for the Ts, it's so valuable. Just have one extra guy on the other side of the map doing something completely random.
Pass one back towards the A site here for Heroic, looking to flex their round win into the weapon advantage. But Endpoint do dodge the early threat, backing up enough for the terrorists to still get close, but not yet on the bomb site. They've got short shelf in their control. I mean, there's just so many players here. Check out the radar. Like 9 of 10 here in the server on this A site. Tesses and Stown working the AKs to get those opening picks to soften up the defense. Stown is low HP, so he will swap for the MAC-10. Now they're just going to call it quits. We saw last round that really good hesitation from the bomb carrier in order to make the most of Nico's lurk and get that B site under wraps. They could go do the same thing here. They've only spent the first 40 seconds of the round for this. Now they've got still a minute to work wherever they damn well please.
There's something about, we saw a good CT side from Endpoint on this map, but in the, was it 2 maps or 3 maps versus G2? I thought it was only 2, but maybe I have a bad memory.
I could be wrong. I remembered 2, but I remembered we had a 3rd mapper. That could have been the 2nd series. It was a little wishy-washy.
Yeah. The 2nd series was, it was 2 maps. And then, so it felt like on 3 of the halves in the 2 maps, that Endpoint looked like a solid team that could really, actually beat G2. But the one question mark was, as Maniac pointed out, I think it was a very uninspired T side from Endpoint. And I think what's going to be really cool about today in the second half is seeing what's changed between yesterday and today. Because certainly after that loss, they had some conversations. You know, they probably went into the server, tried to develop some stuff. This is a very valuable experience, of course, to learn from matches as opposed to scrims. And I think there's so much to be desired from that T side. Whether they watch the VOD, watch the demo, or just discuss things, I'm sure they're going to change some things. Because one of those problems is, of course, you know, it felt like they were not using FlameZ to his potential. Very one-dimensional approaches on the A ramp. After a certain point, G2, once they got their claws in, could get away with murder in a number of ways. And yeah, so I'd like to see maybe they added another kind of default to their A ramp, a different variation, a different way of having FlameZ lurk, maybe encourage some more B hits overall, even though that's a little bit non-standard. We need to see something different. And I think a lot of the battle will come down in the second half. But of course, the second half is going to be that much harder if they don't have a fantastic CT side. We just know it's in them to at least put together some numbers here on CT. So we'll see what they can do. Initial aggression up the A ramp once again here for Endpoint.
I think you're dead on. It's gonna try to be, you know, refreshing FlameZ because he's so good. That's the reality of it. And I think the way that he synergizes with Mighty Max at times, those two guys on an entry is great. But, well, Robin and Crucial, they get blown away. Frag Grenade and the MAC-10 between Cadian and Testes is enough to take this A site. And because they didn't stampede inwards immediately, there's not more than 2 players here. Heroic kind of cooling their jets ever so slightly in this third one. I think looking to really minimize some losses. It's really just Cadian who's expendable, being on that MAC-10. But he'll take the AK and let Stown go attempt to kill. Who loses the SMG doesn't quite matter, so long as those 4 Kalashnikovs are kept.
Was Surreal also in Opera at one point? So I'm trying to recall the history here. So Surreal and Def came over to play on the original Complexity, right?
Complexity, yes, sir.
And then Crucial went to play with Splice, and then went back.
It's honestly, it's crazy to think. It's been a long time, man. Like
I feel like 3 of them have actually been to NA, and then Thomas got taken to Envy as well. Endpoint is just they're just throwing people overseas. That's what they do.
Throw them overboard. Come sink with us.
Yeah. Welcome to the empty region.
There's plenty of room.
Enjoy your free wins.
Yeah. Here we have it, folks. We've got the gun rounds coming out of Endpoint. Let's see if this defense has got something to say. We saw some life
at the same time.
Yeah, right. It's a wave of emotion. It's not over yet, this 4th round, and that bodes well here for Endpoint. They're just going to kind of position across the map. They get an initial engagement. Cadian looking to make a lot of space immediately in middle. He pushes FlameZ off of the construction boost, and now it's this crossfire between Crucial and him that will serve well for Endpoint. Crucial swapping weapons, almost getting caught out there by Stown, but yeah, it's into the next duel that he loses his head. So the 4v4 is grabbed back. Mighty Max feels the need to go for the peak, and that's going to cost him. But so far, the trades have been good until this point. Stown besting Surreal in middle and going for another kill could have left them with a man advantage, but FlameZ is there to, yet once more, even things out. 2 versus 2 with that bomb on A.
Oh my god. Tess is looking to catch a lurk. Don't know if he spotted Robin crossing. Flames might be his first victim. It depends how deep they think he is.
Good
but
flash.
They can't wait out this entire smoke.
Had him turn away, Nico. He gets Robin, and yes, you are correct. FlameZ has to just concede. Ah, that one hurts. Because like we said, man, there was so many different duels going down. You know, you had Mighty Max on A ramp. You had 2 instances of a mid-fight, separate 1v1s. Crucial had done a good job of picking up the first one, but I feel like Stown really opened up that route. Denied Flames the time to rotate to A. You know, even by the time he gets in position, he's smoked off. We see his teammate come out from CT, but Robin died empty-handed, and that spelled disaster there for FlameZ. So a 4th for Heroic on this T side, but the closest round yet.
It was really hard to follow, of course, but we're seeing, of course, aggressive CT default to the wave right now. So a lot of duels are happening nice and early, which makes things more exciting, but of course, probably more frustrating on CT side, where the economy is a bit more fragile, things are a bit more expensive. So Flames will be wielding the only strong gun of the round. There are some armor buys behind it, so it can be recycled. And he'll take his initial peek down the ramp. Don't know if he was spotted or if Tessus was pre-firing. But it doesn't mean much. A lot of the A ramp is about spamming yellow, spamming smokes, pre-firing positions, looking for grenade damage, basically hitting people where you can't see them. That's where, unfortunately, a lot of the damage it needs to come from for you to win rounds.
Oh, Tess has good walk out. Go for the commitment, Flame.
Uh-oh, he's spotted.
Keep it pinned in.
Hard.
Like sharks, man. They're floating around the top of this ramp. They know there's players down there, but the smokes go back up, so everything kind of stalls for yet another moment. Doing a really good job considering how little they have to work with just kind of denying Heroic some ramp control this round. But I feel like they're just going to shift into the B site, and we're going to have to see that side of the map tested, and seeing as it's Flames with the AK, these CZs may not be long for the world.
Yeah, they did a great job refreshing smokes, but what Heroic have craftily done is not use any grenades almost. They've waited till 30 seconds, but they just haven't invested a lot on A ramp at all. So they have the opportunity to move over. However, Mighty Max, with the best SMG in the game, the CZ will come through with an opening on Tessus.
Something to work with. Mighty Max trying to buy time. Great damage, or great team damage. Either way, he set that situation up.
Can they plan? They can't plan.
No, gonna go for the flank, but yeah, the clock has made the decision for them. Mohan, this is Endpoint on the board in the most awkward of awkward fashions.
It's so hard to follow these rounds. So I think what happened, to try to re-scramble my brain and put together the pieces, was that they attempted to go for late B after the re-smokes were really good on the A ramp. Heroic health nades. They attempted to go into B, but Mighty Max got that CZ frag. They decided to hoof it all the way back to A, but at that point, there was just no hope for it. So it was good for Endpoint. I think it was smokes that won the round, because when they came for the late B, there was still another smoke on this not full buy round. And that's the key point for Endpoint. But they used the very few bits of utility they had to their maximum benefit.
And inside of smoke, it's going to be another little A clash here. I do like that Heroic in that last round, even though they lost it, did kind of start to fool around with the B side a little bit, keep the CTs on their toes. Nico and Mighty Max exchanging frags, and Tessus gets the best of it. That's a man up for Heroic, but there is still Robin, who looms near on the side of short shelf. The smoke in front of him is faded, so he's going to take his chance to strike, and it is perfect timing versus Cadian. Able to catch him with a nade out, and then a second for Robin. Flamesy on the bomb site, and Borup oh so close. With down clearing out B, Borup, he could buy his time. He's going to find a head turn, but Flamesy catches him just at the end of it, and Stown with no bomb has to wrap this one back. It's a 1v2 in the mid round, and things can get weird here. He's got a player right in front of him, and he cuts down that first headshot. So it's just Surreal left over, and that's all they need. It's Endpoint with a second.
Wow, that could have been an easy 1v2. Definitely not surprised, I think, to see the second player that close up in Surreal. And a lot of crazy stuff went down over on Train. It's a 6-0 start for NIP into their maybe second map. Don't know who won that first one. Kind of curious, actually. Because we saw Sprout beat NIP to open up the group on that side of things.
Saplings going up so quick.
Yeah.
Flamesy, he's got the opener. Surreal with the second kill. I mean, hey, this B play just got completely obliterated. Flamesy is everywhere. Constantly anywhere. Moving around the map so far, and I like that fluidity in the setups of Endpoint. I mean, he's been on mid control, he's been on A plays, and as long as he's where the action is, they're walking away with rounds. And this one could even be convincing, Mohan. 5v2 at the moment, minute on the clock.
No doubt. And it's like that Henny position, I think, is the key one for them on the CT side, where Robin was trying to get there last time. Flamesy was here this time on this previous round. And that's the spot where they can control the yellow tarp, make sure no one could turn the corner. We saw Robin, barrel stuff Cadian while he had his Molotov out, and then he was unable to be traded. So a really key spot for controlling the A ramp. Of course, popularized by Henny, not invented by him. Can't take credit for inventing that spot, but Henny's the guy who showed everyone how to play it.
Jumping shots here from Borup. Desperate for something, and Robin doesn't even need to see him. Shuts it down with 5 players standing. That's an excellent outcome for Endpoint. Now this CT side could get rolling. They've got money in their back pocket. They've just got to rebuy the nades. But the nades were the name of the game at the base of B. Just peppering everyone before going into their peaks. And as said, not dying at all. Endpoint, good job to recover some economy.
Flames middle of the map again. Yeah, they're going to go ahead and try to go for B. Crucial doesn't want any of that.
Backs up. I mean, he's got support and Surreal here back quad, but quad's not what it used to be. Bit of minimal cover. Could get overwhelmed with these T's. They're going to go for the boost. I like it. I like it. Get a man up behind the wooden panel, but you got to be cautious. Sometimes your head pokes up. Doesn't seem like it happened. Tesses knows to stare at his feet. But as he goes over the top, he drops his smoke back for Stown. Now the desperation's going to sink in. They try to get a bit more aggressive. Crucial's got good cover. Surreal is now removed, so the Opera has to do some work, and he does. Flamesy on rotation, as always, and Crucial stood tall. So we've got Endpoint tying the game 4 rounds apiece.
It's nicely done, and they look a bit more comfortable now. Of course, Heroic's still always going to be scary, and we'll find out if they can continue to put some good pressure here on the T side. I don't know if they're going to try to start out the round looking for their opening kills on A. I think they're aiming to get to the mid-round as quickly as possible with some of these duels, because they're so aggressive and individually stacked. Cadian opening on Crucial, which of course is the op on the CT side. Won't be indicative of anything, but now the CTs are of course spread even thinner. Not much mid presence beside Robin. He's so passive even that Flamesy has to watch his back from the site.
Mohan, I've got good news for you.
Okay.
I think you'll like this. OG have taken a map off of Mouse Sports on our alternative streams.
Go, baby.
Imagine that. 1 map away. This is Nuke, for those who are curious. And this is Vertigo, for those who are here with us on A.
And Nip are up a map, and we're 6-0 versus Ents, which I think is an elimination, right?
Yes. North beat them yesterday, and Heroic are beating them right now, pretty heavily. 5-2 in the kill count. Survivor count, rather. Round 9, 35 seconds left. Great wallbang from Tesses. Almost pushes Robin over the edge, but he will get away with minimal HP. Bomb doubles back, 30 seconds on the clock. And that clock has already come to haunt Heroic, so I don't think they're going to let that one happen twice. Stown lays down the smoke grenade to ensure any sort of a cross, and Nico's late A lurk really puts all the pressure on Surreal. Oh, the frag.
Oh, the Molotov missed. I thought it was a great lineup. We actually saw Surreal win a clutch yesterday in similar fashion. We threw a Molotov perfectly coupled with an HE grenade, and he was able to stop a defuse, accelerating the damage from the Molotov with the HE, closing out the round before a 5-second defuse could come in. I thought that would have been a great second go of it, but it didn't happen, and yeah, Endpoint just lose that default again. So there's going to be a lot of default losses, default victories with some of the duels on the A ramp. It really just depends how aggressive you want to be on CT side, but a lot of people would argue right now that you kind of have to risk it. You give the T's too much space on the A ramp, you just end up losing just a bit more slowly.
Crucial's looking to get a accidental shot there. You know, sometimes your mouse hits your keyboard and the left click happens. It happens.
Oh, I've
Crucial back behind sandbags. He's ready for this one, man. They're going to line up. He hits the shot. He's got 1 HP left over. He hit the shot, but it's not enough to push Borup over. He's lucky to even be alive. Oh, and Robin peeking into what could have been his death. Nico and Borup with 2 kills to bring this one back for Heroic. So this A site still very much under question, very much under pressure. But Robin talking about pressure, looking to step up when things get rough. And oh, he goes for the peek down tarps, but doesn't anticipate Nico being committed to the corner. That could have been massive had they stepped into him, but it was the opposite. And so Heroic sitting pretty in a 4 versus 2 with Surreal and Flamesy both on this bomb site, hoping that if they wait 10 seconds, maybe one of the defensive players will leave. But it doesn't seem to be the case. They are going to have to give them this fight. It's definitely outnumbered, but Borup and Tessa is somewhat softened. And Nico getting the first headshot really puts the nail in the coffin. Flames tries his damnedest with 2 kills back the other way, but that is Heroic now leading by 2. Score 6-4.
Yeah, tough one. And I think I'd like to see in that situation, I'd like to see Crucial not move at all. I mean, he could still die, but he actually got spammed off the edge of the sandbags because it felt like he was taking the baton and thinking about like leaving his spot quietly. But I think he's dead at that point, and he should just stay behind the sandbags and try to live as long as possible because he's delaying. He's kind of like his own piece of utility, even though he has the op once he gets spotted. And then Robin pushed up, and then he had to find a timing for when to peek the ramp, and that's awkward, and it's hard, of course, without X-Ray to know when to push, but he gets killed by Nico, who's holding him. But I really think that in that situation, all the focus should have been on delaying as long as possible and not moving from good positions.
Oy. Little wallbang action here from Cadian, rattling one through those sight boxes. They could walk away from this. You know, they've taken damage from these pesky USPs. It's down, finding Mighty Max in transition. He's going to bank the frag onto his head. Mighty Max knows he has to run away. Does actually manage to switch sides, kind of setting up Robin for the kill perhaps, but so outclassed in terms of hardware. That's Down's just going to have fun with this.
I feel like I'd like to see the weird part is I don't think they're playing A badly. I think Robin's doing a good job on A. Crucial's doing a good job. Some of these openings on A, but I feel like Flames should be like, if he's going to be the A ramp default on T side, he's already a very active player who doesn't really care about how much cover he has. I feel like I would like to see him more just on A, and it might be his decision to play mid or play flex like we saw him playing yesterday, or right now kind of floating between B, A, and mid. But I feel like that's where he's going to be. He's probably going to be one of the better players. You know, if there's going to be an art on this team, is what I'm saying. It's probably going to be Flamesy, and I think, I'd be curious to see or hear why or why not he doesn't play A more as a dedicated anchor.
How are you feeling about this CT side so far, Mohan? We said we knew they had it in them, but trailing by 3?
It's a bit weird, man. Some of these rounds feel very 50-50 with the way the default goes. Like, a part of me doesn't want to overanalyze it because there's so many swing trades. I'm sure you see them as well, where it's just like, man, that didn't feel like they misplayed it, but the T peaked right after some CT peaked, and then that was the key kill to defend against yellow, or them turning the corner in this spot, or like, you know, the domino effect, or, you know, here's a good play from Tessa's that opens things up.
Yeah,
and
that's them getting kind of lulled into a false sense of security. I mean,
that's
you see everybody
true.
going
That's
for
an outplay.
shots, everybody's playing for smokes, and Tessa says, enough of this.
That's
Runs
very
in
true.
on it, gets the double entry. So this time, I mean, I see exactly what you're talking about, right? The swing kills, they're apparent, but I do feel like the reason Heroic are leading is they're just the tighter pack at the moment. They've got the better killer instinct. They seem more confident in their aggressions like that. I mean, think of back to Train. Tessa's doing the exact same thing with the ladder room. You know, you'd get one kill and still stay stuck to the base of the ladder. I feel like they're on point, and they're all on the same page. And that right there is the 3-round difference. But
the only thing I could maybe, totally. And the only thing I could maybe offer up as some kind of solution or alternative strategy is if we think about, let's say, more set grenades from behind the spam wall, and instead of peeking into the ramp using Like, I keep thinking about JKS and the way he plays the A site. It's mostly passive, but he gets so much utility damage off in most of his games on CT side. And he does it from safety, from behind. You know, he's got lineups for all his HEs, Molotovs and stuff, and spams through the wall, which is what you expect the T's have to do to get kills. And okay, 1v2 on the B site, but Crucial gets killed. But maybe trying to, since they're so used to you pushing A ramp every single round, maybe changing that up a little bit and trying to get a lot of damage off on, you know, nading some of the positions you know they're going to try to get to on the A ramp without actually facing with your players. But to each his own, I guess.
I think you look at those first 2 kills from Tessas, and in hindsight, they're way too easy. I mean, he finds one player with a nade out jumping by surprise, and the second one just trying to b-hop back into cover. So they weren't even shooting back at Tessas. He is almost just shooting fish in a barrel on this A site. Sounds cruel, but it's what he gets paid for.
Yeah.
Nico trying to tap back Surreal. He's just on the edge of that B site. And again, we fall into these unfortunate moments where Endpoint are just strapped for cash and therefore equipped with the lesser weapons. Still able to do damage and get frags as FlameZ shows us, and Robin as well from the A ramp able to connect another with that Deagle. So the B site is what is in question, but Surreal, he tries to slip through smoke and almost gets away with it. Down now in middle, a constant threat from this position, and just a constant threat from Heroic, man. He's at the top of that scoreboard, 15 frags, 8 deaths, 12 and 4 is Nico just behind him, and Heroic now knocking on the door of double digits. So close.
Yeah, as much as the focus has been on, you know, it was Tessus on Train, it was Cadian opening op duels, you know, it's a bit of Nico on this map. Down has quietly just been putting up very consistent numbers throughout all halves.
Nice nade.
Yeah, making it look very easy. Great nade. Huge nade.
Some off of that, perhaps. Smoke over. Blocks off construction. They could challenge towards elevator if they want to. Smoke off CT side, but you know what? It's a minute 20 on the clock. Everybody's still up. It is the 5v4. Why not just reset? Let's get that default rolling.
That's something of a reset. We're officially in the mid round, 4-on-4 with just above a minute, but things have quieted down so much. I love when things get lurky like this.
Especially on Vertigo.
I'm tired of the spams. It feels like I'm watching a like Dunkirk in the IMAX on the A ramp with all these spams and nades going down. Yeah.
Crucial. Nice. Right through the edge of the wall. Besting Nico. Locking down that short shelf. Borup tries to play out for middle, but that's where FlameZ will catch him. And now down to Stown and Cadian. They're both low HP, and Crucial finding one is then traded back. So let's see if Cadian can clap what is left of Endpoint. He got that immediate trade onto the other Opper. They are all on the bomb site, and Cadian's cutting him down. He got 2 of the 3, looking for the 1v4, and it's just one step away. Tech9's out. Robin's close. Cadian doesn't see him, and that's going to leave Endpoint a chance to catch their breath. But you know everybody on the server was just puckered, man. 5 rounds for Endpoint. That's so damn close.
I had that, man. I was shaking my head. Like, I'm shaking my head at disappointment. Like, it was just a bit unlucky, but how are you going to do all that work, Katie, and not get that final kill? That was his. Yesterday, he played so damn well versus Astralis. Despite losing, was the key fragger on Heroic. And, I mean, it's kind of crazy to see, you know, Cadian after all this time really can become the best player in the most important matches. It's really awesome. We give you a lot of hope for your career as an up-and-coming player.
Look at this, they're straight into the aggression. That energy from Cadian's near clutch just boiling over here into the 15th round. The final round of this first half. They stampede their way into middle as if they own the place. Completely cutting off this A rotate. B clear for the taking. Surreal is off somewhere, but not in the mix just yet. Cadian holding down this mid lane, just locks it all off. Surreal, he went for the bottom B ramp. He went for the control he could get. So there is still a world where the retake happens because Surreal was able to hold on to some portion of this side of the map. But I mean, we've got Heroic heavy-handed fighting tooth and nail for this 10th round. They want those double digits, but Robin and Crucial and Surreal back into it. It's Cadian for the clutch, cut down by Crucial. Good job by Surreal to give them that anchor. The ship stays in the port, and it's close enough to the shore. Only 3 rounds away from Heroic. Join us after the halftime break to see what goes down on Vertigo.
When you meet an ordinary girl every day, there's a lot of guys around that try to steal her away. I prefer my cyber sweetie, honest and direct. Online, baby, let's connect. 'Cause there's a place we can go in the computer screen. And if you're down and you're low, you're still a king or a queen. There ain't a thing that you cannot be. This is a world of imagination. My online baby, let's connect. Don't you know my online baby never breaks my heart. She believes I'm handsome and I'm rich and funny and smart. I don't want a real woman stealing my respect. Online baby, let's connect. 'Cause there's a place we can go in a computer screen. And if you're down and you're low, you're still a king or a queen. There ain't a thing that you cannot be. This is a world of imagination. My online baby, let's connect. Now, there ain't a thing that you cannot be. This is a world of imagination. My online baby, let's connect.
We are back in action, and so are Endpoint. We got something to talk about, Mohan. 6 rounds
Okay.
on the scoreboard, 9 for Heroic. Sure, they're trailing by 3, but they showed us a little life, and life has a way.
Yeah, it's that's true. Life has a way. I want to let that ruminate for sure. But at the same time, I just want to say that was just such a mess. That was such a mess. It's so hard. It seems so. Not because anyone played badly. It just seems so hard to pull these rounds out on CT side. It just seems like such a nightmare. And Heroic did a good job of becoming that nightmare fuel for Endpoint. But now that we're through it, it's kind of close. There's still hope for Endpoint. Let's find out if they brought some new ideas to this T side.
Yeah, let's. This is where they needed to show us a bit of improvement based on their performance yesteryear. So Let's hang on and see what happens. It's collected. It's calm. There is no calamity in the first 30 seconds. In fact, there's barely any action other than Cadian getting gushed down to 12. Our eyes fall on Flamesy. I think it's very evident to everyone that he is a key piece to the success for Endpoint. And I don't think he really kind of found his spot. He didn't find his comfort zone on the T side of Vertigo. Now they're going to go ahead and try and barrel into this B bomb site down first at bat. Able to catch one kill, but it is Flamesy to get the double. And that double kill, oh man, it's looking good. He triples up before going down himself, and it could very well be Endpoint with the pistol unless Nico catches them all off guard. He sees the player come out from smoke. It's Crucial doing the damage, and it's Nico doing the dance. But death has found its way into Heroic's camp. And now Endpoint trail by 2. Good pistol.
Insane 3K, of course. That was the gush on A ramp to deny Cadian any information, to turn that into 2 entries and finishing off Cadian at the end. Flamesy quietly putting up 300 ADR on that round. Quietly, 100 ADR across the map, and quietly putting up 100 ADR, I think, on Train as well. I want to say he was up there. Over 100 ADR. Wow, last map, Connor, he had 107 ADR. And all of his other 4 teammates had 58 or below.
Yuck.
Yuck. Yeah. Yucky. It was a close match too. Score-wise.
I think that was kind of our narrative going into the G2 game yesterday. It's like, well, all of the clout is kind of around Flames. All of our expectations are on his name. And then we got this awesome kind of team experience from Endpoint, and that's why I think they contested with G2. Today, it's back to expectations. Flamesy has to be the difference, and maybe he would be. Crucial able to open, but there is a lot of danger in this zone of the A site. I mean, CT is all stacked up. Scout, MP9 in the mix, double Deagles. We know they can be deadly if you get those gut punch shots up close. 45 seconds left. No sign that Endpoint want to take this elsewhere. So 2 kills, 3 kills coming in for them. That's good stuff. That's Endpoint firing up into the A site, dealing with what was a backhanded threat. They had the advantage, they flexed the advantage, and they will close the advantage because Cadian is running for his life.
I really like these drag explode strats. Like, work it slowly up the A ramp, get that, accumulate enough pressure, get to some key positions, and then just move. Get into the site, smokes down, plant the bomb. Don't allow for a window of opportunity for a big flank to come in because you took too long. Don't let the CTs get comfortable in their positions. Once you get the kill that you need, just start to move up with it and not really waste time. And even though they lost an opening and were down 4-4, didn't play like they were down 1 player. And I think that was key. So now Heroic will have to go back to just these USPs and try to make some magic happen. But at the moment, it seems like Heroic are going to avoid this threat entirely. They're going to skip the side boss, go right for the bomb plant, and try to hit up the end game. We'll see if next round they're going to continue to use A. And for those of you who didn't see the match yesterday, of course, we were talking about Flames' position on the T side and how it was a bit uninspired. He played this spot a lot in their defaults, right into these great, and I think he likes these angles a lot, which is awesome. But what happened was Hunter kept finding him in that same position, pre-firing him, keeping a tag on him, and it ended up making him useless. And even though he had a great first half, on T side, he couldn't kind of come into his own. Of course, he is a young player, putting a lot of pressure on him, expecting a lot for all his maps to be developed. Of course they're not. And he's also very new to the team, right? He just replaced Thomas, so they've only played a handful of matches together, and there will be some development to be seen.
100%.
But that being said, it'll be cool to witness it. I really believe he's a lot like a Stewie 2K. I think the reason that Stewie 2K caught so much attention was because he always played with a ton of maturity, even when he was a real rookie, whether it was in like rank S or whatever it was. And he made people mad because he was never scared to apply pressure, push smokes, spam things, do the things that you shouldn't do unless you're a tenured player, right? Like, he didn't respect anybody, and that's
Wasn't
the same
playing like
quality
a rookie.
Exactly, and that's the same quality that I think Flamesy has. So I really feel like he'll be a valuable component to his team for their big wins. And who knows what the future holds.
Well, 3 rounds in a row for the side of Endpoint, a T side that's got its wheels on, and they're rolling. They're not squared off, but Flamesy trying to get into that position that you were just alluding to. I feel like it is a literal cage for him to play underneath that ramp, but I mean, it is also in the face of Heroic's A aggression, a little bit of adversity thrown their direction. Tessus, I mean, this guy loves the pressured situations, huh? He's either playing ladder room, playing short shelf. Those are his 2 CT side spots we've seen so far this series, and I like it. You know, talking about rookies who kind of don't play like it. He's got the burden of these positions on his shoulders, and he does so good at wrecking face and not allowing Endpoint to get comfort here in the 19th round. They are so distracted with the forefront of the A site, in fact, that they have nobody to hold off Stown, who is just lurking behind them. You know Stown wants to keep going here. He wants to peek around the side of Forklift, but there's no need. The A players themselves have gotten all 5 frags, and that first gun round for Heroic goes perfectly.
You know, CT-sided site anchors are a dime a dozen, right? But these players who are willing to play the really, really scrappy hard spots are a bit harder to find. And the idea is you can want to play there, but you can be bad. You have to play there and get kills. That's the hard part.
That's the hard part.
And yeah, and it's about creating value for your roster, right? Like, you know, right now IGLs are worth their weight in gold, offers are worth their weight in gold, and now these scrappy rifles as well. And oh my God, it's down. I don't even know what happened. I was looking at my other screen.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shame in missing that, man. He literally sprints into the B ramp, underhands a flash off of the edge of the ledge, and almost blinds himself, hits the ground, immediate 90-degree flick, and the double kill, dude. Just talking about players who play those high-octane positions, you know, I think Stown wants to remind Tessus, who's boss? 5 versus 2, minute 15 on the clock, Endpoint getting dismantled in another gun round.
Right. Yeah, pretty much over already on this round. We'll see if anything can come of it. Now, just Robin now 1v5. And I just want to say, like, Twists is another player who is always willing to play these really hard roles. He had like a bone to pick. Do you know what I mean? Like, he had something to prove. Like, he wanted to play drop on
Chip
Cobble.
on his shoulder.
He wants to play Halls on Inferno. He wants to play the spot where he can be annoying and find a kill where it's a very disadvantageous situation. And that is creating, you know, value for your team in a world where, you know, 4 out of 5 of your players are your riflers. I think that's what Tessus is doing. That's what Flamesy is doing.
Trying to be cut from a different cloth. That chic fabric. Heroic. Closing, as expected, after such an explosive start. But here's that Stown 2K, man. I mean,
that was
just
big.
So fast. I mean, he threw himself into the bear's den, punched the bear in the face, and walked out.
Yeah. Killed it during hibernation.
That's what they do in Denmark, right?
Wrestle bears. Oh, there's Russia.
Could be. P250s. ×2 for Crucial and Robin. Glocks on the rest of Endpoint. So if things were dire in the full buys, I'd say they're bleak here as well. And now Heroic, I mean, you know, playing a little bit more respect, not trying to give away those easy openings, right? I mean, think about it. Gun round, Stown flashes himself into the base of B within 10 seconds of the start. Complete and total eco, and Heroic are stagnant, just forcing Endpoint to work with the non-existent hardware.
Missing a little zest.
Thank you.
Non-existent. Missing some zest. All right. Well, it's a field trip. We're going to try to wrap short. Who are they running into? Cadian. Oh, he's only got the op. He can't kill all of them at once, but he can take it down one at a time. However, he's got second line of defense. Tessus, he's baiting Cadian. He's like, Cadian, I'm going to take my kid to school. Cadian, I'm going to show you how to play this, okay? You stand here, you take your op shot, you fall back. And if you mess up, I got your back. Don't worry. You can fall backwards. I'll catch you. Tessus is there from the default to make sure that he can't lose.
4. Oh my God, Chris J. Acing away.
That's what we need to see, man, because Mouse Sports, they have an op identity problem. They need Chris J back on that baby.
Identity crisis. Chris J may be their solution. But that's going down on an alternative stream. So if you have 3 monitors, there's 3 streams for a reason. Now you just need 6 eyes.
The hard part. 2 sets of glasses, maybe.
Back into the gun round, and it's a little less explosive, Mohan. I think Heroic know that they've kind of got their foot on the neck of Endpoint, and if they can squeeze this one out, they'll be turning purple with desperation.
See how it's like jarring that Heroic are not pushing? I think this is what maybe Endpoint needed a little bit of on their side, on their first half, where they're so scared they're delaying time just by not pushing almost. And now we're getting that spam duel going in. Mighty Max starting to turn the corner, but you see the nade damage come in.
Yeah,
More
once you
passive
start
nade
spamming,
damage.
It's a big old invitation for the green grenades. Over the top go the Molotovs. More damage being done. It's like, can you do anything? We tried shooting through the walls, they hit us. We tried throwing our grenades, they hit us. But Surreal does find that opening for a moment. Of course, it is Tesses playing that shadow advantage well, getting those 2 kills. He is on high alert, and another Molotov hits the dirt right at the feet of Endpoint. FlameZ, last man up, 1 versus 2. That's the situation they've net from this, but Stown on the flank. He's gonna stab him. Stown's gonna stab him. Or is he just gonna shoot him in the head? Oh, you come. There you have it. Ah, I'm on the edge of my seat, man. Just shoot him.
I was thinking about it. Maybe he's going for Monster Energy, would have gone for the knife kill.
The Monster Energy, knife of the day.
Let's not encourage though. JW going for the grand prize every single day. Well, Heroic do look like a super solid team right now. They're winning a handful of rifle rounds here. They've got some more variety with their setups. They're not scared to play passive and still do damage. And that was just the ideal example of using your utility in a passive setup to win the round.
Stown is so good. I mean, he's faltering a couple shots here, so maybe I've just jinxed him. The P250 and Tech 9 taking heads as Mighty Max makes things awkward. Nico, good bank frag, met by a Molotov, and Endpoint have to actually fall into this post plant. Now they've got the op on the front of it in the form of Robin. He's gonna get boosted. Ooh, very nice. Trying to catch that player dropping from Khan. Katie in on the other side, trying to op, and the boost works. Great post plant situation. This is what, okay, hold on. Let's give some merit here. Yeah, they get explosive on Stown. He was playing the close corner. He hit his first shot knowing he was under pressure. He did a good job of actually kind of drawing them closer and closer and taking those kinds of shots on cycle. But I think he actually bumped into his teammate when he finally tried to jump back. And so things got a little too hectic there for Heroic. Endpoint walking away with a 10th round.
Yeah, he kind of just rotated into his teammate, and then who knows whose fault that is. It's just a tough situation, but it basically allowed them to both be within millimeters of each other. So even if you miss one, you hit the other, and they both went down at the same time. Both had shots, of course, you know, so pistols can be strong, and we know that much, but they're still nice shots. 2 ops in play for Heroic. Now that Endpoint have officially crossed into the double-digit marker. I like this. I love the idea of introducing a new threat when you have a streak going, you drop 1 round. Let's just turn it up a notch. Let's see if the 2 ops will be the way to take it over the line. Don't give them time to adjust or adapt to what you're doing.
4 up on his own with this B site. Very awkward spot. He's gonna burn to a crisp. Just absolutely gone. Now Nico's gonna try and scramble into this, but Surreal already has some forward positioning, and Robin even further. Mighty Max goes for the plant. Counter terrorists on the retake. This is unorthodox stuff. A couple back-to-back B rounds, baby. And maybe Endpoint are gonna close them both. A lot of grouping up here from Heroic on the CT side of things. Tesses jumping into the crosshair of Robin. Now Stown's on the combat op, and he lands it. The exact same boost is in position, but they give that one up. And Stown's gonna just take him down, robbing it back as FlameZ, last man at bat, almost gets a second, but it's Nico the difference maker, and Heroic getting to the 14th mark.
This is the real problem with the map, right? That even if you get the bomb down, you get the opening kill without taking any damage. You throw some amazing utility. They have no information even when they die. You get in the site and you plant. The post plant is still such an easy retake. And then we're seeing what's great is that we're seeing Endpoint's game plan change mid-match. They tried a lot of A stuff again. It didn't work out, but look, they have some cool B stuff. So now they've tried that. But the same problem occurs with every single team that tries to go B. When they do and the CT still have utility from the A setup, they can retake a B, no problem. They made it look easy, and that will probably happen again.
Surreal keeping them honest at that B site. They get aggressive, and good 2 headshots coming out of Surreal. It's down on damage control. Cadian, the second op. Both of those players moving the big greens inwards.
Yikes.
And kind of catching Endpoint off guard. I don't think Endpoint, after getting hit by that 2-man B push, were ready for an assault on all fronts.
Yeah. It's like
blitzkrieg.
It's kind of like the Furia magic. It's like, how do you read Furia if they're always playing it like it's 4v5?
Right? Yeah, good point. Oh, yeah. TessS closes. Now at a +7 spread, still trailing behind Stown. But I mean, let's just take a moment to appreciate this. 26-16 on Stown, 21-14 for TessS. It's looking real good here for Heroic. But 5 map and match points. Endpoint, having gotten to this stage of the tournament by getting through that closed qualifier, they turned heads by beating Mouse Sports not once but twice. And well, now things could be coming to a brutal end. But they have another 5v4. Last round was a 5v3, and that still didn't close in their favor. So I don't think they can let their guard down for a moment.
That was a beautiful recovery, 3v5 for Heroic to think back on. And now another disadvantageous situation. Cadian hunting down this Opto. He's got a rifle right behind him. The escort service is here. And it'll be kind of an A ramp play, but now it's 4-4, and the lower guns are in the hands of Endpoint. Tess is ducking under some bullets. Mollied back a bit, but he's not going to be scared of this.
Radiant's got the cover of the site. And then everybody starts to arrive. Mighty Max looking to make that first bit of space, but TessS so good at the cover, so good to support Cadian. And the man falls, the team falls. Endpoint eliminated from DreamHack open fall. And it's Heroic to keep on going.
It was a pleasure to watch their games. I mean, they did get outplayed in both times now on Vertigo in the second half, but all 3 of the other halves, I want to say they looked good. They had to work hard for these games. They were not easy games to play. They're disfavored versus G2 and Heroic, and it's not surprising to see them lose, but it was great to watch them play. So I'm just happy that it happened.
Sure, I'm right there with you, man. They gave us something to talk about, and they didn't make these games completely flat. I mean, it says something when they didn't play Astralis, and that's the 3rd team in their group. This was a difficult game from the get-go. The cards were stacked against them, and they still made a hand of it. So props to Endpoint, but farewell, friends. We're going to go ahead and throw this one to the break. Analysts up next. We'll see you guys soon.
16-10, and a convincing display from Cadian's men sees them seal the victory over Endpoint. Commiserations, as we will be bidding farewell to Endpoint. But the Danes, they hang on to their tournament life and continue their journey here at DreamHack Open Fall. Of course, I've got Potter and Maniac joining me to break this one down. Potter, we see another solid display from Heroic, and they step up when they need to most.
They absolutely did step up, and a different look. Once again, we kind of talked about it. Heroic, they've got a lot of strats, a lot of plays in their playbook. This time around, a little bit more standardy Counter-Strike. And for TessS, I thought it was a great look for him, especially towards that A. We always talk about how much aggression and confidence this youngster has. This time around, with some finesse sprinkled on top, it was a lot of control towards that A ramp, and you could see that Endpoint they had to really go through all of their pages to figure out what the answer was going to be, and they couldn't find a definitive one.
Yeah, I want to pick up something that Connor was saying during the game. Staven and Tessus, these two players, obviously playing those separate areas on that CT side, Maniac, but they just seem to thrive under this pressure, and it's calculated aggression as well. That's what we always talk about with these guys.
Absolutely, and then I can take a minute just to give some credit to Tessus, because if you go back in time just a little bit in his career, when he was in Optic Gaming, also a Danish squad, I personally thought he wasn't enough. I thought he had reached the limit of what he could do at the highest level of Counter-Strike. He was really posting some bad numbers, but actually he's stepping up massively in this heroic lineup. So it could either be he progressed and improved as an individual, which is very likely, but also the way Cadian is using him, I think is absolutely perfect. He is right there for the fight. He's going in first. He's finding these timings. I have in mind the round where he's waiting behind the smoke in the A ramp, waits for the last bullet to go from Robin, goes through the smoke, grabs 2 entry kills, and that is it. The round is over. So yes, Tessus is doing really well, way better than I expected, and he's definitely a reason why these T-sides are going well for Heroic.
Yeah, it's incredible to see how these players are moving and evolving going forward. And I believe with that wonderful noise, we've got one of these lovely players joining us on here. Staven, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Congratulations on that win, man.
Thank you very much.
I do want to start off, though, by talking about your game yesterday, actually. I know it was only, it feels like only a mere few hours ago. It was such an incredibly long series. But I wanted to ask you about the team's mentality after that loss on Vertigo in those overtimes. Where did you guys kind of focus on, and what were your kind of key takeaways from that series coming into today?
On Vertigo, I mean, it was a lot of back and forth. We should have honestly just have closed it out when we were leading like 15-11, I believe. But I mean, Astralis is just playing really great as well. So we all just reset. I think we are like really good at resetting and coming back, and that was what we did when we came into Train, and we closed out Train pretty easy. And on Inferno, we had a good lead on CT, and we threw it away kinda, which I think lost us the game in the end. So yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible to see the fight that you put up to Astralis, no less. Then obviously moving on to Endpoint, you did face them quite recently at DreamHack Open Summer, but with a slightly different lineup. Obviously we see Flames coming into the roster here. How different are Endpoint with this new addition? Do you notice anything different about their playstyle?
I don't really think that playstyle has changed, really. I haven't watched them a lot, but I think like I've watched Flames, like he's put up some great numbers. I think he's a great addition for them, but they still need more time to get to the top, I think.
Maniac, I know you had a question you wanted to ask as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about your teammate Tessus, because it's a player that I don't really know. I've seen him a little bit in Optic, and he is surprising me a lot. So can you give me a few words about him? How is he as a player, as a teammate? Just interesting to me, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't really knew Tessus either. I never really played with him before he came onto this lineup, but I've been really impressed ever since he joined us. He has like probably the best aim I've ever seen when he's on fire. But I think the problem in Optic was like he didn't really evolve like as a team player, and I think like I'm just really amazed by how he's evolved on this team, and I think he's a really, really good player and a great teammate as well. I think he's a great teammate.
Nice.
Stan, I have to ask you about this double opping. We talked about it a little bit at DreamHack Summer. That was kind of the first event that we saw you busting it out, and it has been success after success. Now, I'm wondering, because right now in the landscape of things, double opping can actually be pretty challenging, especially when you're facing up against a neck and neck team. The rounds are going back and forth. You just don't have the money. Are you guys kind of proactively planning your economy to be able to bust out that double op more often, or is this still just a back pocket? Whenever you can do it, you're doing it?
I feel like it depends on what team we are playing as well, but I would say that like it's up to me when I want to have the second op, and if I want to have it, I obviously just save in the eco rounds for it. So it's up to me.
And just finally, before we let you go, Stan, I know generally when we're speaking to Heroic, we normally hear from Cadian. So I kind of want to get your sort of thoughts on Cadian as an in-game leader. How does he kind of help you guys develop as a team? And how has that been happening over the past few months where we've really seen you guys be flourishing?
Yeah, I mean, Cadian is a great in-game leader. I feel like me and him always had like a great synergy from when the moment he joined the team. We both have like, we enjoy like playing some chaos here sometimes, like reacting fast and stuff like that. And I think the addition of like Nico and Tessis really like applied good to his like way of in-game leading. And that's just like, I think that's the reason why we are where we are right now.
Well, it's been fantastic to get to speak to you, Stan. Go and take some rest. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of you here at DreamHack Open 4.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic to get to hear from Stan, especially after that performance throughout this entire series, Maniac, because he's really been one of those key difference makers.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And the fact that they have this very powerful double AWP setup that they can pick up whenever they want. And I really, really appreciate your question, Christine. Is it something they always have to do, or is it a back pocket surprise card they can put up? Because we've seen teams in the past rely too heavily on the double AWP setup and kind of fall in the financial pit of despair when they cannot have it, they cannot frag. Well, Stavn is definitely not in that category. He can yield the rifle very efficiently, and then whenever he brings the AWP, that is just icing on the cake. And it's even one step further in being completely unpredictable, and I have this setup on train in mind where Caden is lower with the AWP and Stavn is higher with the AWP. So how can you see it coming? You're T side, you're taking control, you get grabbed by an AWP down there, and there's another one peeking from your right hand side. So it's really unpredictable, it's very complete, and I think it really puts Heroic in a new dimension.
Yeah, it really does indeed. And with that, we can take a look at our updated standings for the tournament as well, because we had not one, not two, but 3 games going on at the same time here. Of course, looking over to that OG versus Mouse game in Group A. Maniac, you said this was going to be the group of death. It really is. Mouse Sports are eliminated.
Absolutely, and then it is tough, but yet understandable. I think everyone could kind of see that Mousesports' run at EPL with Bimus was a honeymoon period. I'm not saying they're gonna go way lower than that. I'm saying they would not be able to replicate that result on and on and on. They're gonna need time to find out their identity, find out their style, and it is harsh for them. But again, this group was absolutely packed and completely insane.
It has been so packed indeed. And of course, our updated Group B bracket as well there, Christine. Unfortunately, Endpoint are going home. But I think we can take some positives from that experience. You know, they've come in with that new 5th man in Flames, and they've definitely been learning throughout this tournament.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you just look at the Endpoint guys, we have to remember they are very new to the top echelon of Counter-Strike as far as competing versus the best of the best. And all 16 teams here at this event, they're vying for that first place. So I think Endpoint, they impressed. You know, we mentioned it 2 times they beat Mousesports in the closed qualifier to make themselves be here. So that in itself is impressive. A little bit more time to gel and marinate with Flames, because this young man has a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, and I think definitely from what we saw, specifically in that first map, Maniac, I know that I believe Launders was talking about it during the game, you know, Flames on Vertigo. He has the places that he likes to go, sort of around the A-ramp area. Unfortunately, G2 just managed to neutralize him. Then coming into this map, it seemed like he just wasn't able to, you know, put his foot to the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a new player, I think being versatile and changing your position is kind of the next step. For him, as the casters point out rightfully, this is new, that kind of level of Counter-Strike. He hasn't really been there. So your instinct is, first of all, to go where you feel comfortable. You are going to go for your comfort zone. There's going to be a couple of positions where you feel great. You know the angle, you're going to get kills. But the pro teams, they're prepared for that. And if you don't adjust midway through the game, they will punish you. So for him, he's going to have to be a bit unpredictable, But I also think that's an Endpoint issue, not only individual. On that first half, when they were CT on Vertigo, I thought they were on and on again, trying to fight, being skirmish, being in Heroic's faces. And although it worked at the beginning, Heroic, like a top team, figured that one out, changed their pace just a little bit and punished them. So you need to be able to change rhythm, just like Heroic did, and that might be the next step for Endpoint.
And I believe we've just got an update on another matchup that has been going on here. I believe Ents have actually been eliminated from the tournament. NIP have managed to take it 2-0 as well. We can actually relive some of the final moments here of that game. So this is what happened in the NIP game to allow them to cement that victory. Again, Christine, you were kind of talking about it earlier. We were maybe expecting a little bit more from NIP. So maybe good to see that they've actually revamped their form a little bit.
For sure, for sure. And you know, that second map was a lot closer. It does seem like that first map was quite the blowout. 16-7 for NIP to be able to win that out. Ensev, it's been a bit of a struggle here for the past year or so. We know this, and especially even coming into this event, they're missing Yampy, their new superstar that, you know, everyone has such high expectations for. X7, though, you know, he's been a huge part of this ENCE lineup for a long time. So it's got to be disappointing for the crew over at ENCE.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a question mark, isn't it, Maniac? Obviously, we've seen X7 moving over to the side of Havu. Obviously, for this event, due to the Valve regulations, Yampy has actually been swapped over for that. So X7 coming back into this, I feel like maybe a little bit more expectation, considering that he was, you know, a staple part of the ENCE lineup for such a long time.
Well, I think there's two ways to look at it. The first one is, okay, X7 is a professional and he wants to win any game he's in. Okay, this is the vanilla way of looking at life. And then there is the realistic view where how can he be fully motivated, fully operating when he's transferred from the team he's actually investing all his time in, Havu, going back to the team that benched him, trying to do the best with them. Let's be honest, this is such a hard situation to be in. Even if it's not conscious, because I do believe that he's a professional and he wants to do everything, unconsciously, how can you give it a 200%? And you mentioned it as well, Yampy, I think he is one of the main reasons why ENCE have been able to slowly climb back up the ladders. We talk about double AWP very clearly with Alu. They are a very, very dangerous duo. They've been the reasons why they've won most of their games. So you take away Yampy and you put in a, let's just say, slightly not motivated X7 in the mix, and it's really complicated.
It has been an absolutely spicy set of matchups to be starting off our day here at DreamHack Open Fall. And of course, this is not all that we have in store for you guys. 2 more best of 3s will be awaiting. And coming up first, we are going to be continuing on with that Group B action. It's Astralis taking on G2, and it's coming up after this.